All right, let's dive into something that's really changing the game for how companies manage risk. It's called controlled self-assessment, or CSA for short. And the big idea here is shifting responsibility from just the folks at the top and putting it right into the hands of the entire team. Let's get into it. I mean, just think about it for a second. If you're running a big, complex organization, there is no way for leaders or even an audit team to have eyes on every single thing every single day. It's impossible. The old way of doing things, that top-down inspection, it really has its limits. So the real question is, how do you get the people who are actually on the front lines involved in protecting the organization? That's the puzzle that CSA is designed to solve. So here's a quick look at what we're going to cover. We'll kick things off with what CSA actually is. Then we'll get into why it's become so popular lately. After that, we're going to get super practical and look at how to actually run an assessment, check out a few different ways to do it, and finally, we'll zoom out and see how this all fits into the bigger picture of a really healthy organization. All right, first things first, what in the world is control self-assessment? At its core, it's really a change in mindset. It's about moving away from that old model of someone looking over your shoulder and moving towards a model of empowerment. Okay, so what does that actually look like? Well, it's a process that basically gives the power to the people who do the work every day. They're the ones evaluating and improving their own systems. So instead of just waiting around for an auditor to show up and tell them what's wrong, teams are actively looking at their own processes, spotting potential hiccups, and making sure the safeguards they have in place are really doing their job. Look, if you remember just one thing from this, let it be this. CSA turns risk management into a team sport. Seriously. It stops being something that only the executives and the auditors worry about. Suddenly, everybody's on the field and everyone has a role to play. It's all about that shared ownership. And, this might sound a little corporate and abstract, but you do this all the time in your own life. Just imagine you're planning a big road trip. First, you think about the risks, right? You could get a flat tire, get totally lost, or, whoops, run out of gas. Then you assess your controls. You check the spare tire, you make sure the GPS works, you glance at the fuel gauge, and finally, you develop an action plan. Maybe you buy roadside assistance or download your maps offline just in case. See? That's CSA in a nutshell. Spot the risks, check your controls, and make a plan. So why is this idea catching on like wildfire? Let's take a look at the real, tangible benefits you get when you stop being reactive and start making risk management a team effort. And the benefits are huge. They really are. When people are directly involved, their awareness of what could go wrong just skyrockets. That sense of ownership we talked about, it really motivates people to find better and faster solutions. And that often stops those little problems from turning into massive headaches. But here's the really strategic part. It frees up your internal audit team. Instead of getting bogged down in tiny details, they can focus their brainpower on the biggest, scariest risks to the business. This quote just nails it. It really captures that cultural shift. It's the end of that, not my problem attitude when it comes to risk. Because when everyone feels responsible, the whole organization just gets stronger and smarter. You're building a better defense from the inside out. Okay, theory is awesome, but how does this stuff actually work in the real world? Let's shift gears and look at how you actually put control self-assessment into practice. So how do you do it? Well, the most popular way is through a special kind of meeting, a structured workshop. This is where the magic really happens. You get the right people together in a room for a really focused conversation about their work. And it's not just another meeting. It's a specific process called a Risk and Control Self-Assessment, or RCSA. A really good workshop pretty much always has these 4 key parts. It kicks off with solid planning. You can't just wing it. Then you have the meeting itself, where the real experts, the people who own the process, are guided by a facilitator. They follow a clear agenda to dig into all the potential risks and controls. And, this is the most important part, you walk out with a clear result, a report and a concrete list of action items to fix what needs fixing. Now, one size does not fit all. Not all of these workshops look the same. Depending on your goal, you can frame the whole conversation in a few different ways. Let's look at the 3 main styles. Okay, this table breaks down the 3 main flavors. First, you have the objective-based style. Here, you start with a goal, like, say, we need to process all invoices within 30 days. Then you ask, are our controls helping us hit that target? Next is the risk-based approach. This one kind of flips it. You start by brainstorming all the things that could possibly go wrong, all the barriers, and then you check if your controls can handle them. The goal is to figure out what big risks are left over. And finally, there's the control-based format, which is the most direct. You just look at the controls you already have and ask a simple question. Are these things actually working? Each one gives you a totally different but super valuable perspective. So, and this is really important, CSA is not just another task to check off a list or another meeting to cram into the calendar. It actually plugs into the very foundation of how a well-run organization works. Yeah, when you do it right, CSA becomes a core part of the organization's operating system. It strengthens the entire system of checks and balances, and it turns risk management into this continuous thing that's just part of how teams do their work every day. This model shows you exactly where CSA fits in. Think of your organization's defenses in 3 lines. The first line is your day-to-day management and staff. The second line is your oversight functions, like a compliance department. And the third line is internal audit. Well, CSA is like a superpower for those first 2 lines. When they get better at spotting and managing their own risks, it frees up that third line, the auditors, to go after the biggest, most critical threats. The whole system just gets stronger. So if you boil this whole thing down to one sentence, this is it. Control self-assessment is way more than a process. It's a culture builder. It creates an environment where people feel like owners, where they're always thinking one step ahead about what could go wrong, and where great ideas for improvement come from the people closest to the work, from the ground up. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Just forget about formal audits and all that for a minute. Think about your own job, your own team. Where could you apply this idea of self-assessment to get ahead of a problem or just make things work a little bit better? The answer to that question could be a fantastic place to start.